You know, jealousy is not a good trait to have in business. You need to stay focused and you need to work hard to achieve everything you get. But I'm actually jealous of our guest. Our next guest, Justin Breen of DNA Info. I love to feature the stories of entrepreneurial successes, of business stories, and just people that are doing some really cool things. And we're fortunate to be in a town in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area, where there's so much cool stuff that goes on. And Justin is the guy that gets to meet so many of the people doing these just awesome things around the Chicagoland area. So Justin, I'm jealous of you, but that said, thank you for being on with us on Get Down to Business.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Yeah, you're doing a lot of great things for Chicago and the surrounding burbs, so I really appreciate you having me.
You bet. So, Justin, tell me about, you're with DNA Info, you're the senior editor, and you have an opportunity every day, both through you and through some of your reporters, to meet some really cool people and report on some of the really cool stuff happening around Chicago. Tell us about some of the things that, some of the interesting stories that you've recently worked on.
Well, the great part about my job, and I think every journalist's job who really cares about it, is there's always a new story to tell. There's always really cool new people to meet, always new angles to explore. So some of the bigger stories I've had lately are two 13-year-old kids who are about to have their bar and bat mitzvahs. Instead of having these lavish parties, they're going to donate money to help build a playground at a Southside church. So it's two Lakeview kids who are, again, a lot of times with bar and bat mitzvahs, there's these multi-$1,000 parties, but in this case, they're helping donate money up to $90,000 to build a church playground, which I think is so neat. So it's like finding cool things like that is so much fun for me.
That is super cool, and I know you've covered stories in the Rogers Park area in the city, and of course this story of kids giving back in the South Side. That's really cool. So you get around, don't you, my friend?
I get around a lot, and there's another kid I found, Kevin Stonewall, 19 years old. He's from the South Side, Ashburn area, and he's a Wisconsin sophomore, and he's helped developing a cure for colon cancer. So he started this while he was in high school working as an intern at Rush University on the near west side. So this is a guy who's obviously a genius in some capacity, and this is a kid, and he is still a kid. He's a teenager who has the potential to change the world.
That's really cool. So, Justin, in your media and journalistic experience, and I know you've been doing this for a while, tell us about some of the most interesting people that you've met and that you've come across.
Wow, it's just endless. There would be that'd be the longest list ever. But just today, I talked to. He's a professor at University of Illinois Chicago, but he also serves as a coach/sports psychologist for the USA women's rugby team, who's competing in the World Cup in France. So here's a guy who's a coach, but then he also is in charge of the mental aspects of his players, and he helps them. He helps them prepare and stay positive for a big tournament like that. I've talked to this other family who has been at Dan Ryan Woods on the southwest side, having a family reunion there every July for the last 51 years. Then talking to this lady who's in charge of a dog adoption agency who found a dog that had 2 pounds of matted fur removed from it. They didn't even recognize which end the dog's face was on it until they got this fur off, and now the dog's become a worldwide sensation as they try to adopt it. So
I saw that story, and we'll be sure before we say goodbye to make sure to share the link, for all of your news stories with our listeners. But Justin, actually, I read that story about the dog Ellen. I believe the dog's name was.
Yes, that's correct.
So what ended up happening with Ellen? Was Ellen adopted yet?
Ellen has not been adopted yet. She is still not. She hasn't cleared, the health. She's still nursing her way back to health, basically. So she's living in Lincoln Park with the adoption agency's founder in a foster home kind of thing, and she's getting medication and getting used to being around people. The latest post that they shared was that the dog is is still nervous, especially around men, and they don't know exactly what happened to the dog, but obviously she was abused pretty badly if she hadn't gotten a haircut probably her entire life. It's crazy.
It is a crazy story, and as I said, you get to meet some of the most interesting people. But the Chicago is such a diverse community, if I can use that term. I spend a lot of time in, the Rogers Park area, and I really think like Devon Avenue is probably one of the most diverse neighborhoods, certainly in Chicago, no doubt in Illinois, but even really around the country. You have just in one little stretch of a mile or two, you have the Jewish community, Indian, Pakistani, Croatian, Assyrian. You have some Hispanic, African-American. You really have a little bit of everybody. And there's businesses. There's businesses on Devon Avenue, as an example, that's just made up of everybody under the sun. So, I mean, obviously you cover a lot more than just one specific neighborhood. But I mean, is the diversity something that's spoken about? I just think, you go around Chicago and it's just amazing to see, the business community and the people that live in the neighborhood. Is there a lot of interaction? Are you seeing a lot of business being done between different communities?
I would say yes. I mean, and we have a very diverse staff, about 35 editorial people, and we cover all 77 neighborhoods in the city. And, a major part of our job is doing openings and closings and that kind of stuff. But we're also proud of the fact that we cover so many of the city's communities and do a lot of business-type stories. Now, I just Googled DNA info Devon Avenue, and we have a ton of stories just based on that area regarding a brewery of things like that on that street, as well as a streetscape project. And then there's also, people trying to steal cell phones on that area. So there's the good and the bad that, obviously any news agency has to cover. But, that street in itself is just like, it represents Chicago, I think. There's so many things going on and so many different type of cool people.
And Justin, one of the cool things about DNA Info, first of all, how long has the site been up here in Chicago?
Okay, so just a little background. We launched November 26, 2012. I was hired in May of that year, and we had no office, no staff. It was pretty crazy. Like, we were working out of coffee houses trying to hire people and come up with story ideas. And so when we actually launched, it was really exciting, and I think the community really took a liking to us right away, and we've built a really nice audience that continues to grow. And we continue to expand the kinds of things that we're doing and the coverage, and we're doing more stories. We have a ton of stories each day, so it's really cool to be a part of journalism or editorial kind of place that's growing instead of, you've heard trouble in newspapers from time to time, but it's just nice to be at a place that's so vibrant and exciting and willing to do and try new things.
Sure. And Justin, one of the really cool things about DNA Info, as you said, a team that's growing, but I think your team of, I think you said about 35 people, your model is covering neighborhoods, covering communities.
That's
so
correct.
I know, in the Devon area, you have somebody that's really pretty much in the know of everything that's going on in that area. And the same goes for Logan Square. And I'm sure, the other communities around Chicago. And that's just really nice for the community to be able to share stories. And in a moment, I'll hopefully have you share your contact information so people with good ideas can contact you, and you could get one of your reporters, to look into it. But your guys are really involved in community, and that's what this show is all about. It's a community. It's about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurs, but that people that are out and about in their neighborhoods making a difference. And it sounds like very much aligned with your model of news and journalism, which I love. So, Justin, we've got about a minute remaining. How can people find the website as well as share their ideas and their stories with your team?
Sure. So our website is dnainfo.com/Chicago, and you'll see our main site, and then you can go and click on various neighborhood groupings or topics like sports and outdoors or crime and mayhem, that kind of thing. And you can email me if you have story ideas. It's jbreen at dnainfo.com. .com, and I'll either look at them or I'll send to the appropriate person. But the cool thing, again, you kind of mentioned is most of our editorial employees live and work in the neighborhoods they cover. So Ben Woodard, who covers Rogers Park, West Rogers Park, all that kind of thing, he lives in Rogers Park.
Well, get on the website, dnainfo.com/Chicago, and reach out to Justin Breen. Lots of great stories. Hopefully we'll continue to share those stories with our listeners. Thank you for the time. Let's get down to business.